People always ask me what I like about the heating and air conditioning business. And I know it's cliche, but it really is about the relationships and the people I've met over these 30 years. About 25 plus years ago, I got to meet David Wisnia. And as I was working on his heater in Levittown, he started telling me a story that stuck with me all these years. And I feel really lucky that we're going to have an opportunity to introduce you to him and let you hear his story. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's a Levittown original. You are an original.
They moved us to Philly. And Philly got to be unbearable because, first of all, it was expensive. And we rented. We didn't own anything. So when I married this girl from Brooklyn, and she said, well, why don't you're paying that kind of money, why don't you buy a house? I said, who can afford to buy a house? I come here,
And you're in line to buy a house in Levittown.
That's right. We watched the house build and the house. We never really believed that these homes were going to last. They always told us, 30, 40 years definitely it's going to fall apart. And it shows you how Levitt, may God bless his soul, I tell you, how he accomplished something that just unbelievable. People would have never been able to buy a house. Never dreamt of buying. I sure did. As a matter of fact, I had no idea he was Jewish, but he was quite active in the Reform Jewish movement.
So you grew up in Poland?
I grew up in Warsaw, which is a big city. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, which means my family was quite well off because my father was had a little shop where he employed people as an upholsterer. It was a big city. Beautiful city. You should see it now. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I go back there every year. As a matter of fact, I officiated at last year's gathering of the Russian army liberated Auschwitz. I'm invited usually. As a matter of fact, I'm going next year too. I almost froze to death. January 27th, you can imagine the frost. It was 10 below zero. When I went to school in Warsaw, it was very unusual. I learned every subject in 2 languages. You see, most kids here complain about, tough being in school. Every single subject, including arithmetic, was taught in 2 languages. As a consequence, I am fluent in English, of course, and Hebrew. And I became I sang. And that's, as a matter of fact, that played quite a wonderful omen for me because that's how I survived when I got to Auschwitz. So my father, as a premonition, one day did not feel very well. He was 41 years old. My mother was 37. And I had 2 brothers. I was the middle child. And I was sort of a little star, as you see in the pictures over there. I appeared in the theater, I appeared on Polish radio because of my voice. I celebrated my 13th birthday and had a big party Thursday night. Friday morning, the Nazi planes attacked Warsaw. After 2 years, everything was fine. I was still going to school. I was still in the temple, even in the ghetto, until June 21st or 22nd of 1941. Germany attacked Russia, and all hell broke loose. From that day on, they took off their gloves, the Nazis, the SS, and it became hell. One day my father used to work at the airport. He was a carpenter, he knew carpentry, and he made some friends with the German staff there at the airport. He sent me there instead to take his place. I went to work that day in 1941, the end of 41, when there was no more schools, everything was closed, the ghetto was closed in Warsaw. But there was about 500,000 Jews there. And I didn't know what, when, where. And when I came home, I became an orphan very quick. I didn't realize my family was dead. And my mother, my father, and my younger brother. They came together to try what you call, get the people into, gave them a few minutes to get them trucks. They didn't take them anyplace. They were trying out a system of grabbing certain sections of the town. And my father obviously must have resisted, because my father wasn't docile, you know. But anyway, the whole building was corpses. Anyway, it was bad. I couldn't get in there, and finally made it. And what does a kid of, what was I then? 16.
So this is 3 years after the war started. So you
2.5 years. As soon as they attacked Russia, Germany attacked Russia, it was a different story. The rations, the whole thing, they started because they obviously had a plan. It was economically advantageous because Poland doesn't have a middle class, or never had a middle class. You were either wealthy or poor. And the majority of the Jewish population, contrary to all the information, was poor.
Really? I didn't know that.
Poor. Very few. I ran, I didn't know what to do, so I ran, and through the help of one of the people who worked for my grandfather, he risked his life. He led me across the border into Germany, because Germany took 1/3 of Poland and annexed it in 1939. From Warsaw going westward, sort of about 25-30 miles away, they made the border. They took 1/3 of Poland. So did Russia. Russia took 1/3 of Poland too, from the other side,
right.
You know, the eastern side. And the central part of where Warsaw was called the central government, occupied by Germany, of course. Anyway, I didn't have any papers, you know, any identification, because when you don't have IDs or coupons, you know, to get food, you can't eat. You see, this isn't, you go to a store and buy, you follow. So they had to turn me over to the police, because I was an escapee from Warsaw. And together with the transport of 1,500 people, put on trains, destination Auschwitz. Never heard of Auschwitz. Who knew about Auschwitz? We didn't know nothing. When we came to Auschwitz, at the train station in Auschwitz, there was a selection. They selected at the train station 478 men, boys, over to the side. I wasn't 18, and I heard the assessment say in German, I spoke German, sure, but I didn't understand it.
Right.
Who the heck would have ever believed that people would kill? Really?
Yeah.
There were men, women, children. I was only 16 and a half. I heard him say, alle über 18 zum Lager, which is German. Everybody over 18 to the camp. But I didn't know what it meant. The rest of them went on trucks. Men, women, children. Trucks went to the gas chamber. Actually, it was no gas chambers yet. We built them while I was there. Anyway, the following day we found out that they were all dead already. We didn't know. In the first couple of weeks in Auschwitz, I got my number. My number was 80, very low. As a matter of fact, after 2 years being there in 1944, even the SS men had respect for me.
Because you had such a low number.
Because my number was so down here. They figured he must know somebody because nobody survives 2.5 years in Auschwitz. It's ridiculous. After about 2 weeks of dragging horrible job from the ditches of people who committed suicide, all they had to do is walk over. It's mind-boggling. People, no wonder some people say it never happened.
Right. It's
really.
incomprehensible.
It's really. Dragging bodies after 2 weeks. The chief of the cell block, number 15, yells out, "Who can sing?" Everybody knew Wisnia sings, so I became a special prisoner. I got different rations. I made friends with one of the SS men who used to come and bring me, and then I entertained them. I played the piano and I sang. Some of the SS, they had drunken parties, and I knew German, so I was a special star. I didn't live by the rations. By the rations they gave you, you couldn't live. They couldn't survive. So they used to, even the SS themselves, some of them, there were some decent guys. Not everybody was horrible. They thought they were doing their job. Anyway, transports started to come in day and night, and my job became searching for money hidden in the clothing of the people. 1944. I am in Auschwitz. We begin hearing artillery. And we know, if you know where Auschwitz is located, in southern Poland, the center of Poland, south. You have Russia on one side, Germany on the other. While we knew the Allies were fighting now, but we didn't know very much. There was one assessment who used to come and give us little information. When we began hearing artillery fire or artillery cannons, the noises, boom, boom, at night particularly, we figured it's only a question of survival. Another day, that they're going to liberate us. The only problem is we always worried because there weren't that many survivors who were there long enough to see and know what was going on there. Remember, they killed in Auschwitz alone about 2.5 million people. I never thought they were going to let us live. Because I worked my first couple of weeks or third week, most of us worked in building the crematoriums. They weren't ready yet. So we're talking now, I got there in 1942. And that was a bad year. Most of the transports started coming in 43, 44. 44, towards the end of 44, they killed about 500,000 Hungarians and Gypsies. One December 27th or 28th, I don't know exactly the date, we are gathered. I was one of the last transports gathered in Auschwitz, lined up, 1,500, 2,000 prisoners from all around, marching westward from Auschwitz. They tried to destroy the crematoriums. I didn't see them destroy it because this didn't happen until January. You see, the Russian army got nearer. They must have been about 40, 50 kilometers away from Auschwitz. So they tried to destroy everything that wasn't there anymore, because we went on one of those death marches. And I learned enough tricks to be in the center, not on the side, because if you lagged behind, you would be shot. And we were strafed by planes, marching towards Germany now. You got that?
Yeah.
Planes. Wait, the reason I'm telling this to you, we're strafed by Russian planes. And we looked up, of course. They didn't know what they were strafing. They knew because the Germans used to attach themselves, with tanks, with trucks, with wounded, with whatever, to the transport, that was marching. We looked up, I saw stars, red stars with their care. Red, white, green. As long as it wasn't a swastika or one of those black crosses, if you've seen World War II. Okay. We marched, and we went as far as the German border, the old German border, and then they put us on a open wagon, and this was cold, freezing, open wagons into Dachau. That was a camp in Germany. That was a concentration camp. They had if anybody tells you they had gas chambers in Dachau, okay? They didn't have any gas. They only had a chamber for a crematorium for dead bodies, but no gasings, because that was in Germany. Come into Dachau and chaos, just like Auschwitz was orderly, death orderly, you follow me? Dachau was chaos, absolute chaos. No food, no place to sit, because they gathered prisoners from all over that area of Poland as the Russian armies came closer. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay? So I'm hanging around the main office because there was no place to sleep, no bunk, no nothing. I was only there for about 4 or 5 days in Dachau, and I'm looking for some way, how the heck do I get out of here? I heard that they are building underground bunkers for their planes, their Messerschmitts. You know, this is now January 45. Got that? January 45. One day I see a placard informing us that anybody who is strong enough to carry 25 pounds of cement, report to the Schreibstube, which means the place where you write, keep the record, and you'll go down towards Austria, to a camp near Austria where they're building bunkers for the planes. Remember, the war was not over until May. I was the first one to volunteer. One day they take us now on a closed train to a place called Mühldorf, which is right outside of Munich, around Munich, Dachau. As we are on the way south towards Austria, I make an attempt with another 8 or 10 guys who were strong enough, to escape, because when we're strafed now, but little did I know, we weren't strafed by Russian planes anymore. Now we are strafed by American planes. I look up, they're stars, and stars to me were Russian, not American. Anyway, we try to escape as they take us out of the wagons into the ditches alongside the railroad tracks. You follow me? When the planes come along, because they figured they were shooting up the wagons. They had anti-aircraft guns attached to the trains. So they got us back. Anyway, we didn't go too far. I then decided the next attempt that I'm going to make, I'm going to do it by myself. I'm not going to go with a group. Okay? Which I did. Okay, it's now February. At one of these air raids, I took off. I took off and walked. Where am I? I have no compass. I have no nothing. I don't know where I'm going. All I know is wherever I hear the front, the artillery, you follow me, I'm walking towards the fire. After hiding in the barns, beautiful country, mountainous, as I'm looking for a couple of days, I sleep during the day in the barn and walk at night. It took 2 or 3 or 4 days, I don't remember anymore, walking towards the fire, where one morning it got quiet. I figured the war stopped. I get on the incline out of the barn looking for a place to hide for the day because I was afraid they'd catch me and shoot me. I look down from the incline and I hear the roar of tanks, and as the tanks get closer, I see a white star on the lead tank. I figured, oh, Wisnia, you made it. I figured the Russians are here. I start running with all my might down. I'm a civilian clothes. Remember, I had stolen them before. Okay?
Yeah.
As I escaped from a civilian clothes. I get down, wind up in the ditch in front of the lead tank, and the whole column, you thought I was important, the whole column stopped. Very early in the morning, and there's a kid. The only thing that gave me away is no hair, because they used to shave our head. Okay? The lead tank stops, and the whole column, there must have been about 15 or 18 or 20 tanks with trucks with all kinds of stuff. The hatch of the lead tank opens. The whole war stopped for me. Climbs out Captain James L. Walker from South Carolina. I look at him and I saw the star on the tank. He comes over to me and I said, "You Russian?" Remember, my English was very halting. When you learn a language, what do you learn? You learn 30 words. Oh, you learn words. You don't learn sentences. And he, in this southern accent that I never heard before in my life, said, "Yeah, man, yeah, you come from, where escape?" All I hear is, escape, escape, escape. I knew what he meant. He knew immediately I escaped from somewhere. He says, "SS?" I said, "Yes." He says, anyway, he wants me to take the column where the war's on. Okay, you're talking now about March.
That instant, he wanted you to lead them to where...
He wants me to lead them to tell him where did I escape from and was it guarded by the yes. Okay. But I couldn't understand him.
Right.
So I had to brainstorm, and I'm telling you, the whole column stopped. I said, "Wait a minute." He says, no, Russian. He says, "I'm American." I said, "American?" I said, "Star." He says, "Yeah, star, white star." White, I care, white star, green star, red star. I remembered the stars used to strafe us that were Russian. I had a crazy brainstorm. I says, "You American?" I says, "Any Polish?" He says, "Yeah, we got one." Yells down, "Fred Wilczek! Fred Wilczek!" He yells down and they keep on relaying, "Fred Wilczek." A jeep comes alongside of the column with Fred Wilczek. Fred Wilczek is from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Fred comes up in his jeep and he comes over to me and he starts talking Polish to me. His Polish was worse than my English. Couldn't speak. So I said, "Anybody Yiddish?" That's what they say, Yiddish, not Jewish. They don't use that word in Europe. He said, "Yeah, we got one." He yells down, "Harry Wiener! Harry Wiener!" Another Jeep comes up. I'm telling you, it's a classic.
Oh, this is.
Harry Wiener comes driving up. Harry comes over. This is the 101st Airborne. Comes over. He starts talking Yiddish to me. His Yiddish was worse than the other guy's Polish. You can imagine. Can't talk to them. But I figured, if he's got somebody who's trying to talk Polish, somebody's trying to talk Yiddish, it's not German. No. They put me in the Jeep, got me down to the end. I went on an open Jeep. Imagine, this is the end of February, beginning of March, right? I never left that outfit until I came to the United States. I became the official interpreter. I have papers. I ate. I wore officer's coat, which means I ate in an officer's mess hall, not with the GIs. What's
You're
so
18
funny?
years old now, right?
I'm
You're 17 or
18. Sure,
Wow.
sure. 18,
Yeah.
18. Yeah, sure.
Wow.
We then went to Paris. I became in charge of the PX in Versailles, outside of Paris.
You also, before that, you made it to when Hitler's Wolfsden or whatever. You
Oh,
were there,
they
and that
gave
was-
me.
That, I mean, how many movies?
They
does
taught
that-
me. They taught me how to use. First of all, taught me how to. I became the formal interpreter, and I picked up English like that. Of course, I couldn't speak anything else. Okay, I became one of the boys.
How many people in the world can say in the history that they were not only a Auschwitz survivor, but a World War II?
World War II.
You were in history
That's right.
with one of the
That's right.
greatest decorated units in
I
U.S.
came
history.
here. I came here in the army. You should see the honors they give me. And I now do. I'm the formal singer of the national anthem at the conventions of the 101st Airborne. They love it. And you should see how they introduce me.
They can still call you Little David.
Little David.
And